Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on this fine planet. This is Paul Raw. I am coming back to you again with the third episode of Snapshot of Pan Africanism. I know you're saying to yourself, how could this be the third episode when the only one I see in your on your channel is one episode? That's because I filmed an episode yesterday in the early morning hours. I finished it, then I got to my destination, and then I tried to upload it, and I incurred a copyright strike. My first, hopefully my last, and that's why I I start off each episode with the fair use disclaimer or disclosure, however you phrase it. You understand. But unfortunately, for me at least, I use a clip from Vlad for that episode. So I have 30 days to see if he will allow it to go on the channel. And if he doesn't, I may create a Patreon for that video because I recorded it, it's saved. I just may create a Patreon for that video or videos like that in the future if I get a copyright strike. Because you see other people on YouTube use copyrighted material all the time. And they don't get flagged, obviously, or if anything, their video is most likely demonetized. But, for newbies like myself or for nobody's period, I guess they don't allow people to, use the law because what's on the screen is the law of the land. That's how documentaries are created. That's how they're able to just take clips from everywhere and present material in documentaries. So what's the difference? I get it. Vlad has a lot of power, DJ Vladimir is what I call him. DJ Vladimir has a lot of power, but that's neither here nor there. That episode is really I will just have to wait and you'll have to accept this new episode. The new episode is entitled Imposing Themselves. And when I say imposing themselves, I mean they're imposing their values. And when I say them, for people who are sticklers for phrasing, them as in Black immigrants, whether they be from the Caribbean, Africa, Latin America, where else? The Middle East, wherever they're from, that is who I'm referring to when I say imposing themselves. That means imposing their values and their beliefs on us, even though they're the guest in our homeland. Today, I'm going to use a clip from a Caribbean lady. Ironically, there goes my favorite word again. Ironically, I ran across a clip I saved in my watch later list. And this is all coincidental. I think I said this in a previous broadcast, but God pushes us in the necessary direction. So I guess this is the direction I should go. Well, this lady is from the Caribbean. She's from the Virgin Islands, and I'll let her tell her own story. So let's get to it.
Hi YouTube, this is Yanali23 coming at you not to do a review today. I'm going to do something sort of like a vlog. I really wanted to touch base on this. This is going to be about light skin versus dark skin in the dark community in the South and in the Caribbean. I was born in the Virgin Islands, and when I was born a dark skinned child, and I was treated very different.
So let's pause. She already set it up. She was born in the Virgin Islands, but she's going to speak on colorism and her experience with colorism in America, as entitled by the video, dark skin / light skin Black woman mentality in the South. The South being the South or the Southern region of America. But she'll tell you everything. Go ahead, lady.
differently. Mind you, I was also born a
Hold on,
twin,
let's take
and
it
my
back.
Virgin Islands community in the South and in the Caribbean. I was born in the Virgin Islands, and when I was born a dark skinned child, and I was treated very differently. Mind you, I was also born a twin, and my twin was very, very, very light in complexion, and I was born dark skinned. So my family, from what my mother told me, they took more to my twin because of his fair complexion, and they kind of sort of neglected me and treated me differently. But as a child, I never knew I was treated differently because of the color of my skin until as I got older, and certain things started to click in my head, and then I spoke to my mother about it. But yes, I was dark skinned, and then as I grew older, I would get treated differently from my cousins because I could say the majority of my family down there was of fair complexion, and I was one of the few dark skinned cousins. So I would get told I was ugly, or they could sing better, or they were better than me, and all this nonsense. And I never understood why. I never knew it was because of the color of my skin.
Okay, let's pause it there. She already laid it out for you. She was mistreated due to her complexion, and this is something I truly believe is something they've imported to our culture because we had colorism issues. Let's be honest. My grandmother used to tell me about how in the 20s and 30s, some people would take bleach baths. So we know it existed in our community, but it's not to the extent as presented to the media, at least not in my experience. And my experience is on both coasts, California and New York, primarily. And from my experience, it wasn't that big of a deal. But these people are importing this problem because it's still a problem in their homeland. Because let's go into this topic or this theory. Whiteness is a social construct, or race is a social construct, period. So whiteness is not denoted by color necessarily, it's denoted by power. So in her country, light-skinned people or people who they deem fairer skin are the white people of their society because whiteness is not a color, it's a social construct. And you just heard her mention that most of the people in her family are fair. And where is she now? She's in America today. That's who leapfrogs over their brethren back home. And I discussed this in the video I made yesterday, but bottom line is a lot of the issues we have with these people is the fact that a lot of them are the upper class of their country, and they leapfrog and they're cutthroated towards their own people, or they leapfrog over and they cutthroated towards their own people back home. So that's what she just expressed. She expressed her mistreatment at the hands of her own family, and this is something that I believe is important. And I say this because I see it in my own family on my father's side, who's immigrant. I think I've stated that already. And it didn't really register until I was a full grown adult because I didn't pay attention. You know, I really, I didn't pay attention to my sister saying I'm the lightest. It didn't register for me. It didn't make sense to me. And then another incident that happened recently, or not recently, but fairly recently, is maybe like 5 years ago now. That's a long time ago, but you get the idea. My uncle dropped me off at my aunt's house, and he said something to the effect of those black MFers. It could because that aunt and that family, they're very dark. And it just took me aback, and I had to tell him, hey, that's inappropriate. That's not right. You shouldn't say that. And he just looked at me. He realized like I don't know this. I don't know this mentality. So he eased up and let me scold him, as his nephew, which I don't have a right to, but under those conditions, I felt like I had a right to. But bottom line is, she'll continue with her story. Let her continue.
So I left the Caribbean when I was 11, and I came to New York. And I lived in New York for a little bit, Brooklyn, and I lived in Jersey. And I could say for the most part, when there was racism down there that I felt, it was never because of the color of my skin. It would be towards black people as a whole. I never felt like Oh, well, even in the dark black community, some of the most beautiful.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right there. See how she equates racism to colorism? That is what I call the racial schizophrenia that they exhibit. I'll say it again. I'll say it again. They have this thing that I theorize as racial schizophrenia. It's like they don't know where to go, what to think. And I discussed this in yesterday's video, but of course, again, I can't post it, but I'll figure out how to post it. But the bottom line is, it's funny how she equates the two, whereas for Black Americans, we don't equate the two. Racism is racism and colorism is colorism. Yes, colorism may be an outgrowth of racism, but they're not associated with each other directly because there's hardly any way for me to make a staunch racist not act racist towards me. But there is a way in my own community to get that person who's a colorist, whether it be they dark skin or light skin, because it comes from both sides. There is a way in my community to check this person and make him reevaluate his thinking. There's no light skinned person in Black America that will sit here and say, I'm better than you, at least not openly, and just stand on it. It just doesn't happen. Not, at least not in my experience. But she equates the two because that's a part of her culture. In her culture, she can equate the two because of people who they would regard as whiteness under their social construct are most likely the light-skinned people. And it's not most likely. Just Google half of the Caribbean islands presidents and prime ministers. Just Google them. Look, man, Google the prime minister of Jamaica. I mean, let's look at what they gave us in terms of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was born to a light-skinned Jamaican guy. He was of mixed race. So that's why she can equate the two. And for her comment on her not experiencing colorism in the North, I call bullshit. There's a lot of colorism up here. That's why I'm even making this episode, is because I realized that New York has regressed from when I grew up here. They've regressed because there's so many Black immigrants here and they're imposing their values. So she's really bullshitting, because here in New York, you have colorism, and it's not just along the lines between Black people, but you have a lot of Caribbeans who fiend after the Latin woman because that's their white woman in the Caribbean. So even so, for the Latin people, they see themselves as separate and apart from Blackness. But for us Black Americans, a lot of them look like our cousins, our at least our mixed cousins, if that makes sense. So we, especially when they first came here in the 80s, I used to tell them, you look like a relative, because I have a lot of light-skinned people in my family. You look like a relative. But for them in the Caribbean, or for the Caribbeans, they don't see them that way. They see them as exotic. Like, she says she didn't see it up here, but that's nonsense. And I like to use one example, Angela Yee. Angela Yee is from Brooklyn. And you can't tell me, with her appearance and the time period in which she grew up in Brooklyn, that those men in Flatbush didn't hound her almost every day. And that's why she's so promiscuous today, most likely, because she was hounded every day by those Caribbean men because of how she looks in her hair texture. And we're going to get into this girl and how she comments on her own hair texture. And I also like to use my own cousin as an example. Now, my cousin was Black American, but he grew up in Flatbush. He grew up around a lot of Caribbeans. And if you were to speak to him back in the day, at least, he can really sound like a Caribbean. Like, he could really mimic the accent. Like, he was really good at it. You couldn't tell a difference. And he was very dark skinned. So he passed. Like, he was like somebody that they accepted. But when my cousin, after he picked up all their values and growing up around them, and he came to stay with me in California or visit, he got the lightest girl he could find. When I say he got the lightest girl, this girl was high yellow. She was biracial, actually. So you know she was high yellow. And then they try to, his family, who has two dark-skinned daughters in the family, or his two sisters, they tried to make it seem like we had some type of influence or undue influence on him in his decision to date this girl. No, I didn't support it. The girl was younger than him, for one. For two, I knew what he was doing. I just knew what he was doing because I already knew like where he grew up, and how he was or how he was being conditioned to think a certain way. But let's keep on moving. I'm looking at the clock. Let's keep this moving. Actually, let's fast forward. Let's do this. Let's play.
For women that are up north are dark skinned, and the guys, I could say they're not picky as they are in the South. As dark skinned, dark black people.
Let's rewind for 2 seconds so we can take it in its entirety.
And then I lived in Jersey, and I could say for the most part, when there was racism down there,
and I like to point out, you see how she said for the most part. That means she's being kind of deceptive. She said for the most part. So she knows the colorism in the Northeast exists. I know, because let's keep it going.
I felt it was never because of the color of my skin. It would be towards black people as a whole. I never felt like, oh, well, you know, even in the dark black community, some of the most beautiful women that are up north are dark skinned. And the guys, I could say, they're not picky as they are in the South, as I'll get to later on, as dark skin, light skin. Like, can you see a beautiful dark skin, light skin couple, a beautiful dark skin couple, a beautiful light skin couple, you know what I'm saying, brown skin, whatever. It never really stuck to me as it did in the Caribbean. So it never fazed me as I got older. And as I got older too, my skin started to get lighter and lighter and lighter. I'm not exactly sure if it's the difference in sun or what, but I got lighter. So fast forward till I was 18. I went back to the Caribbean and I seen my aunt. And the first thing she said to me is, "You're so pretty now because you're light." And I said, very similar I did when I was a child. Like, I mean, my features were the same. The only thing that changed color of my skin, and I'm because I am no longer dark skinned. And I looked at her and I kind of just brushed it off and whatever.
Okay, let's pause it there. She gave a real life example like I gave from my own experience. And that's a real life example that really exists. And I don't want to use, I mean, I don't intend to use this girl as an exact representation of the whole Caribbean community. She's just an example. She's a real life example. And there's nothing wrong with real life examples. So she's not her or her aunt and her family are not an exact reflection of the entire community, but it is a reflection of the culture, the cultural norms. It's a segment, it's a huge segment of their culture that they don't ever want to address. This is something that they keep under wraps, but she is an example of the culture, and that's it. But don't take this as any type of, negative slant against Caribbeans.
So, fast forward to that. From New York, I ended up finding my way down to Georgia with my fiance. And from the minute I came down here, and I want you guys to know this too, I was never called light skin or fair skin or anything. Nobody really ever mentioned the color of my complexion other than my family back in the Caribbean. To call me dark skin, brown skin, I never even cared what color I was. I come down to the South, Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm getting approached by men say, "Oh, you're pretty because you're light skin," or "You're pretty. If you were any darker, I wouldn't date you." And women hating on me because I have a little length in my hair. I have a little length in my hair and a little.
Now, look how she just projected everything. The irony Okay, here's the irony. She just mentioned how her aunt said that she's prettier because she's light skinned, but then she said she didn't grow up thinking she was light skinned, and how now she has to deal with this experience, but she already experienced it in her own family. She may have not have felt light skinned to in her family, but she knows she felt light skinned in her community, in her on her island, but she wants to project that on us. And that's another thing you just see a lot online. Is a lot of times, like there was, wait, let me look this girl up. Let me see something. Hold on. I this just came to mind. Let me see. I don't want to go off of here, so let me move this. Let's see. Let me find it first. Uh, let's see. Let me see if I can find her real quick. Come on, come on. No, that's not her. Let's see. Okay. And I can't remember her name, man. Dark skin. Oh, let's see if we can find this lady. Oh no, I can't. Let's see. Let's see if we can find it on YouTube. Bear with me, people. Like, comment, share. God bless you, and thank you for staying with me this long. Because I see you guys really finished. I mean, I don't have many views. I don't really care. But yeah, I see people actually watch the episodes in their entirety. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Here goes this girl. What is her name? Here we go. I'm not gonna click on her video, but let me just bring her up. Okay. Damn it. Okay. Share screen. Uh, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Now this woman right here. Let's see if we can zoom in on her. She appeared maybe. Oh damn, that's too. Damn it, this computer is acting up. But you can see the lady. And I think her last name is Strouder, but she's Caribbean. But when she popped up on the scene, she didn't announce herself as Caribbean, but she's pretty much a dark-skinned female activist. And she's in Florida. And I didn't know that at the time. I just heard her Southern accent and just left it alone. But she's Caribbean, and she is pretty much a dark-skinned female. I mean, a dark-skinned woman activist. That means she's an activist for dark-skinned women, obviously. But she was really like angry years ago, and I wonder why she was angry. And then one day, I had picked up a Caribbean newspaper. I can't remember the name of it, but it's everybody in New York knows a Caribbean newspaper. They have their own newspaper. And as I'm going through the newspaper, I see her. And it's like first she was on the front cover. So I saw her face and I didn't know what it was about. And then as I'm going through the newspaper, I see, oh, this is that same girl who's a dark-skinned female or a dark-skinned woman activist, but she's Caribbean. And I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Like, for me, I would think that she would have the decency to disclose that information, because why not? I know why not. You want to be able to comment on Black American life without any pushback. Oh, I get it. You don't want us to acknowledge the problems you have in your community, but you want to sit here and scold us for our problems. But, I don't know if that was a poor transition, but I just wanted to bring her up to show an example of how, they come here and they impose their values. That's what they do a lot of times. And that's one of the values they impose. And they also impose another value on us, which is their gender war that they have brewing in their own community. They don't speak on it, but they come from very matriarchal communities, even though they put on an act like, they're submissive to their men and their men run things. That's really an act. But we'll get to the whole gender war thing in a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And, let's do this. Present. Okay. Let's bring her back up. Bring the lovely young lady back up. Do, 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 do. I know that's what people are thinking, but let's do this. Man. What is wrong with this? I may have too many windows up. Here we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience. Comment, like, share, do everything to help your Playboy partner run up that algorithm.
Lightness in my complexion, women telling me I think I'm better than them because I'm lighter than them. I actually had lost a job because one of the women said she lied on me and said I called her the N-word and that I was going around telling people I was better than her, and I was a supervisor at that job. And then I thought I was better than her because I was light skinned. And if I could tell you, if you could see the facial expression on my face, I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I am just as black as you. We're all black. It doesn't matter if I'm light skinned, dark skinned. What does that matter?" But I lost my job because she said she felt I was treating her like I thought I was better than her, which is really horrible. But also, I wanted to touch base on the.
Do you see how she just brushed off the possibility of her discrimination against another Black person? First, she projected her colorism onto us, and now she's rejecting the colorism that she grew up in. It's that racial schizophrenia. And if anybody else uses that term, let them know I coined it in this video. It's like a racial schizophrenia. She just admitted to the fact that her family discriminated against her for being dark skinned, but she can't even fathom the notion of her continuing that tradition with another Black person. And that's because she equates racism and colorism. It's like she doesn't even know how to think outside of the box of what she grew up with. And then she plays the whole "I'm Black" card just like they all do, even though they discriminate like hell against each other, against Black Americans especially. But it's just the irony how she can't even see the possibility of her discriminating against someone, even though she knows of this. I mean, I don't know if you would want to call it a problem, because I don't think it's a problem in our community necessarily, at least not where I've lived. It may exist in the South, or where there's a stark contrast between Black and white, like there's no like diversity, but here we go.
The fact that I've been getting real bad attitudes from women down here, and honestly, I can't say I dislike the women in Georgia but they're a different breed of women that I'm used to from up north. Like up north, women have more of, I don't know. I don't want to compare because I don't want to start arguments, but this is just my opinion. And I feel like women up north are more about their business. To sweat the small stuff about who's looking. Of course, women are going to hate. Like, damn, her butt bigger than mine. Her boobies bigger than mine. Of course, women are going to hate or be jealous. But it just seems so much more abundant in the South. And I know there's a shortage of men in the South, and also there's a lot of undercover brothers. So on top of there being more women than men, there's a shortage of straight men, and then the straight men, there's a shortage of faithful men. So a lot of women are like, it's kind of like they're ready to claw your eyes out to get the attention of other men. I've never seen so much thirsty, hateful, angry women as I have in the South. Now,
do you see how I mentioned the whole gender war dynamic, how they're importing it? Because we have our own problems to deal with. Oprah was on TV for 20, 30 years. Okay. Who else? The Color Purple is on TV somewhere right now. No matter where you are in America, some channel is airing The Color Purple. What's Love got to do with it is being aired at some time somewhere right now as I record this video. So we have our own issues. So we don't need new people coming in, bringing more issues. Do you see how she just brought up, how the men are down low and, women are fighting over men? First, she was hating on the woman, and now she's going to flip it on them. It's like it's really some like mental gymnastics, because she knows how she sounds. She knows she sounds kind of discriminatory and very hateful of Black American women, because that's what it is. She doesn't like Black American women. And that's one thing I need our Black American women to realize. Quit with that feminism bullshit, okay? Because a lot of these women dislike you. They despise you, okay? And that's just the reality. But let's continue.
not everyone is like that. I've came across, like, if it's not about the color of your skin, it's about your hair, it's about this, it's about that, whose body is bigger, and it's all gated around men. And that's what it is, all around men and all that. And me, I have my man. We moved from New York together. So I'm
See, it's all about men. I need to let the clip play, so I need to stop stopping it. I will admit. But yes, she brought it to men because that's what they do, because they like to hide behind their woman. And she's used to that. She's used to taking men and making them the villain and making the woman the heroine. That's what they do. And the reason why I even know this even more is because, like I said, I've studied this issue for many years, just because I grew up in it. I wanted to understand it. So I said, why is it this way? Like, why are our women acting up? Why do certain Black people act a certain way? And, when I grew up, I had to deal with this. This is the Combahee River Collective. Let's read. It was a Black feminist lesbian socialist organization active in Boston, Massachusetts from 1974 to 1980. So I visited Boston quite a bit growing up because that's where my family is really located. And I had to deal with this as something that was always in the background. And I didn't learn about it until I was 21 or 22, and I worked with this white girl in a call center, and she introduced me to a Caribbean girl who told me about it. And then I started to read about it and understand it. But as you can see, we already read it. I hate pronouncing this. The Combahee, that's how you pronounce it. Combahee River Collective was a Black feminist lesbian socialist organization active in Boston, Massachusetts. And please jot this down. Make a mental note. Feminist, lesbian, socialist. But let's look at the members. Let's see if we can find them real quick. Here we go. Here are the members. I'm going to go to the two I know for sure who they are. So, Andre Lorde, famous black feminist who eventually changed it to womanist because she realized white women were racist as hell. But that's neither here nor there. But let's check out her background. She was born in New York City to Caribbean immigrants. That's her background. That's just the reality of the matter. And this has been a sore spot for Black American men and Black American women's relations. It's just been, they've been in the background doing this for a long time. And you could fast forward to today with people like Tanya TKO or Tarana Burke. Like, I'm going to say this, I don't care. Tarana Burke popped up and she made claims of rape. And that's totally reprehensible. I condemn any man who rapes a woman. But when she came forward and she said she was raped, it made me feel like, who would do that? You know, like, look at her. And I know I'm wrong for saying that. I may get in trouble for this. Who knows? Because rape, as they say, is about power. It's not about attraction. I got you. But at some point, you have to go, who are these men? I want to know who they are. You know, and that's not simply based on her looks, but why would they do that anyway? Period. But I only say that to say because Tarana Burke is Caribbean. So a lot of times they're bringing their own pain and their own grievances and imposing it on us like it's our problem, like we're the rapists, or we're like, they say because they're Black under, you know, the definition in America, they're automatically associated with us. So when a Tarana Burke comes forward, they automatically just think Black men are raping her. When they say Black men, it's Black American men. And even more particularly or specifically is Black American men whenever Caribbeans or Africans or Latin Americans speak about Black. When those people speak about Black, they're speaking about us because they don't accept the Black label. So they come here and they impose their values because it's not only Andre Lorde from the past. Let's go to the other members of the Combahee River Collective. Right here. This is the former mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio's wife. No disrespect to her, but her name is Shireen Irene McCrae. And a lot of times, a lot of Caribbeans have Irish last names. We know that could be due to the fact that a lot of Irish became overseers, especially in America and on islands, and they were owners. But here we go. So she grew up in Massachusetts, another hotbed for a lot of Caribbeans and Black immigrants, period. Her mother, Miss Kathleen Clarissa Eileen, was an assembly worker at an electronics factory, and her father, Robert Hooper McCrae, was an inventory clerk at a military base. She is of Barbadian and St. Lucian descent. This is not a figment of my imagination nor yours. So they are importing their own feminism as to say, like, we have the same problems as them, even though we don't have the same problems. Just like we don't have the same problems with our women in comparison to white Americans. White women try to act like, you know, we have the same problems when no, we don't have the same problems because the white woman's main complaint is unfair pay or lack of access to employment or what else. But those are the main two. Our women have always worked and our women have always earned a decent living compared to their men. So they're coming from societies, again, where their racial construct or social construct of race is totally different. If not totally different, is ahead of ours because it's not, we're still under white rule. So it's just different. But let's go to the other ones. Let's see if there's another one. I think there's another one. Like, again, I used to study this crap, and I never knew it would mean anything. Here we go. This lady right here. It says her father is African American, but a lot of times they're not African American because they just use that as a label. It's a generic label for anybody Black in America, especially from her generation. So her father is most likely Caribbean or African, or Caribbean, actually. I wouldn't say African, but Caribbean, and she's Japanese. So, and her last name is Ray. That means her father's last name is Ray. That's you don't meet too many Black Americans with the last name Ray. And a lot of times, one thing people don't know or realize, or at least people not in the Northeast, a lot of Caribbeans have two first names as, their whole name. Their surname and their first name are first names. And Ray is really a first name in Spanish culture. In fact, she maybe half Spanish, half Japanese. When I look at the name, because her father could have cut off the ES, which would have been Reyes, and just made it Ray. So it's more, generic and less noticeable. But that's just there are other people in this Kambahahi collective who are not Black immigrant, they're Black American. But a lot of times when our woman did it, it was usually her, the frumpy kind. She looks like she could be a good 6'1", 6'2". It was usually the oddball woman that became feminist especially back in those days. They were in our group. Those are the women who signed up for the feminists or the feminist ideals. Let's look at another one. Let's get this. Here we go. She was born in Shreveport, Louisiana. She's most likely Black American. Frumpy looking, regular looking, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love those girls. They're cute. But a lot of times, they're very critical of everything around them, including their own people. But let's keep it moving. Like, comment, share. Thank you for your patience. Let's keep it moving, because, man.
I'm not worried about who's looking at me, who's this, who's that. You know what I'm saying? I just don't understand where the negativity is coming from. Why am I getting told that I think I'm better than you because I'm light skinned? I think I'm this, I think I'm that. Oh, because I have a long hair. Oh, that's not really my hair. I have weave, or I think, what I'm saying? It's just, I just don't understand where is it coming from and why is it so abundant in the South. I know slavery was gated in the South, but
Duh. It's like you're answering your own questions, but you want to ignore that answer because of this reason alone. Let her finish.
But it's 2013, people. Like, really? Where is it coming from and why is it so abundant in the South? I know slavery was gated in the South, but it's 2013, people. Like, really? Just love.
I mean, come on. So slavery could play a part, but like they always do, they tell us to get over slavery, even though they were free 50 to 60 years before us. You know how long that is? You know how much time they had to recuperate from slavery? And this is Caribbeans, of course, that I'm speaking of. You know how long that is? But you want to sit here and tell us, like, that's a long time ago. We should get over it. We didn't have a chance to get over it. We're still living under that rule, essentially. There's no huge difference. There is a difference, but there's no huge difference. There's just been modifications to our oppression. It's gotten better, of course. I'm not going to sit here and act like I could go outside and get lynched tomorrow, but there is some correlation between today and yesterday. But she wants to act like that's not a justifiable reason for these women suspecting that you could, act out your discrimination due to your light complexion. It's that racial schizophrenia.
Love your black. Black is beautiful. Why do we have to separate ourselves? Like when I lived up north, to me, the most attractive women I saw were dark skinned, brown skinned women. They got some beautiful women up there. And I think it's because they embrace their beauty. I don't know. Down here, it seems like.
And here we go again. She's essentially projecting, acting like there's no issue with dark-skinned women and light-skinned women in the North, even though rappers like Fabulous have used Spanish women in his videos forever. And Fabulous is actually half Guyanese, half Dominican. A lot of those New York rappers were really the ones who ushered in the exotic woman, as they put them, or as they put it. I think one of the first videos, when I'm really thinking about it, where they start to use the light-skinned woman, was actually Full Force. When I'm really thinking, and Full Force is Caribbean. Full Force actually introduced one of the first Spanish female rappers to the game. They produced Lisa in a Cult Jam. For all you old heads, you know who I'm talking about. For all you youngsters, go Google Lisa in the Cult Jam. Or not Google, YouTube it. They made some really popular house/dance songs, but they were really urban. So it was like kind of under the hip hop umbrella, but not totally. So she's projecting, and she's sitting here acting like all of our complaints, if they are, possible, like she scoffs at them, like it's totally impossible for her to have any type of feelings of superiority, even though it's already ingrained in her from her culture. But let's fast forward and let me go to this, like how she talks about how she doesn't feel this way and everything, but let's look at how she messes with her hair.
Like, what did I do to deserve that? And I ask people too, like,
Look,
I'm not from the South. I've been down here 3 years, so I'm trying to understand the mentality.
do you see that little combine ear trick? That is the trademark or patent example of when somebody feels like they, at least in Black America, when somebody does that hair behind the ear thing. I can even remember my cousin telling me about her friends or somebody getting mad at her for doing that because they couldn't do it, obviously, because they didn't have long hair. My cousin had long hair. And this cousin is actually dark skinned, but she had long hair, and she said people would get annoyed by that. But let's look at it again.
Eyes rolled up. To me, that's because beauty women. They got some beautiful women up there, and I think it's because they embrace their beauty. I don't know. Down here, it seems like other than you, when they see you have something that they don't have, automatically it's negativity in here. I get attitudes all the time from women, and I will not be the one to sit up here and say, "It's because I'm so beautiful, she hates me." No.
And look how she just mimicked a Valley Girl, but she exaggerated it, but she knows how that is kind of mimicking white woman and how their beauty standard is imposed on us, but she wants to ignore it. But let her finish.
Automatically, it's negativity in here. I get attitudes all the time from women, and I will not be the one to sit up here and say, "It's because I'm so beautiful, she hates me." No, I wouldn't say that because I'm not vain. I'm not somebody who's stuck on themselves to nothing. I never think, "Oh, she hates me because I'm beautiful" or anything like that, because to me that's like pathetic, and like, you hate me. So I'm thinking, why when I go up to the register and I'm asking for something, or I'm being polite, and I'm always a polite person. I say my ma'ams, my sirs, excuse me, please, pardon me. I'm never disrespectful. I'm always smiling, you know? So I go up there with a very pleasant attitude, and then I get eyes rolled at me, and then all that. And I'm like, really? Like, what did I do to deserve that? And I ask people too, like, I'm not.
You see how she did the hair? Even though she mimicked a Valley girl doing that, she did it herself. But let's keep it going. Man, this thing, I need to.
Not from the South. I've been down here 3 years, so I'm trying to understand the mentality. And they all tell me, girl, you know why they don't like you? But for one, that hair on your head is real. For two, your complexion, you lighter than them. And for three, you know, you're a decent looking girl. You're a pretty girl. So they don't like you because of that. And I said, are you serious?
So how do we know she didn't make up this friend? She just said she moved to the South. So who is she talking to? Oh, either she made up this friend and these are her true feelings and her own theory, or she's talking to one of her Caribbean friends up north who's actually giving her an excuse for how she behaves, because she most likely acts like an asshole, okay? So her friend is giving her an excuse up north because they know they have colorism issues. And this is something, memories has come back. I remember I had a Cape Verdean friend who told my Puerto Rican friend, not in my presence, but when they were alone, that people will discriminate against him as a Puerto Rican because he's light skinned. And when I look back on it, I wondered if he was talking about me and my brother, because we're lighter than some people, but we're not light skinned. My Puerto Rican friend was real light, and the Cape Verdean dude was real light. And another guy from the Virgin Islands, from where she's from. Honestly, the guy from the Virgin Islands said the same thing, or at least they were in a group together. And the thing about it, my Puerto Rican friend told me this, and I didn't know, like, they felt this way. But then I had to realize, wow, this is a part of their culture. This is how they got to America, damn near. It's because they are the white people of their country. But let's finish.
For me and my perspective, when I see a beautiful woman, I'd be like, damn, she's beautiful. Or golly, like, I wish my booty was like that. Or I wish my breasts sit high like that. It's never a negative thing for me. It's always like, wow, like, she's blessed. She's very fortunate. I love seeing beautiful women. Like, and I'm not gay or anything, but I always like to see a beautiful.
Yes, she is. See, the loophole is to say I'm not gay, but she's really bisexual. But for a lot of us Black Americans, it's like bisexual is gay and gay is bisexual, you know? But we do have a little gray area when it comes to the woman, because you had all these damn rappers rapping about menage a trois all through the 1990s, acting like that's the shit to do all the time. Is it fun? Maybe, yes. But that's not some shit you want to be involved in for the long run. You just don't. But bottom line is, let's go back. I can't even go back to Kamahai. But if you remember what that Kambahai River Collector, the Kambahai River Collective, if you remember what it was described as, a Black feminist lesbian socialist group. That's another thing. There's a lot of DL activity in their community from both genders, and you'll never know unless you catch them in the act. Hi, Mr. C. Got nothing but love for you as a legend, Mr. C. But he was a key example of this down low culture that they have, that they're also importing and trying to make it seem like that's what we do. Like, to this day, I can't find the background on the author of that book that Oprah showcased maybe like 10 years ago. I know his last name is King, but King is a very generic name. He could be Caribbean for all you know. But to get back to my point, it's funny how she tries to say I'm not lesbian, but and actually, I'm gonna let her speak.
Black woman, especially a successful, beautiful Black woman at that. That's even more attractive, you know? So I don't understand where the negative, I guess I do, from slavery. but it's just very like, it really makes me hate living here, because who wants to go out their door and every time they try to spark up a conversation or have friends, it's some kind of negative issue about the color of your skin. Like, and the messed up part about it is I have a dark skinned daughter, you know, and I don't want her growing up thinking she is not beautiful because of the color of her skin. Because my daughter is gorgeous from head to toe, to her chocolate complexion, her curly hair, her long eyelashes. Can't nobody tell me my baby is not beautiful.
Do you notice how she had to really emphasize curly hair while she plays with her hair? While she does all this with her hair, let it finish. Look how she
But
plays with
I
her
don't
hair.
want her to.
But look at how she plays with her hair. But yeah, that is her way of saying, yes, my daughter may be dark skinned, but she has good hair. You know, it's that racial schizophrenia. It's very odd.
To grow up with that mentality. And I just want to know you guys' opinion. Is it only me who feel that the women in Georgia are just very negative and hateful and jealous and angry? And it's like, I know there's a shortage of men, but you don't take it out on other women. You know, you just don't. I don't know. It was just my thoughts I wanted to share. This is, I guess, a little vlog thing. So please no hateful comments, because if there is any hateful comments, I will disable. I just want genuine opinions. I want to be enlightened. I want somebody to sit there and really explain to me, because I'm a type of person, I don't just make assumptions. I want to learn.
Do you see how she's playing with her hair the whole time? Oh, the shit is hilarious. But I want to end it here. And actually, I was going to review her part 2 to this video, but we've already been an hour in. I want to keep this shorter than the other videos. And I'll end it here essentially, but you get the general understanding, at least from my perspective, on how they impose themselves on us with their values. And they have this very odd racial schizophrenia going on with them that we have to suffer through and we have to stomach. And but that's not our problem necessarily. That's not really our problem, at least for me. I grew up in New York and the Bay Area, Brooklyn and Berkeley to be exact. And whoever hears my voice, they know who I am. I'm nobody, but you get the idea. I didn't grow up with that mentality. I didn't grow up where colorism was an issue. But then when I came back east, I noticed it was an issue. You know, and the thing about it, when I think about it, it was always an issue for those people. Because when I look at the people some of my relatives dated or reproduced with, yeah, they were Spanish people sometimes, a few times. It was so much so that this girl friended me on Facebook, and I had to ask, or she sent me a friend request. I had to ask her, like, who are you? I know, like, I saw she was mutual friends with several family members, and I had to ask her, but she didn't respond. So I didn't say. I just left it alone. And then my great cousin mentioned her, and I said, oh, she is related to us because she looks like a Spanish girl. She doesn't look. I mean, I would have if my uncle or that great cousin, excuse me, I call him uncle, but that great cousin didn't tell me, I wouldn't know she was my cousin. But bottom line is, it was really the bottom line is they're coming here imposing their values, even though we've actually developed past that point. At least in my life, in my experience. Does this problem exist in some areas? Yes, I will admit, but they're like in the deepest crevices of our community. Like if you go to South Carolina, to one of those small towns, it may exist there. Or at one time, if you go to the deepest ghetto of Chicago, the problem will exist there. Or where else? Or in Oakland. I know this for a fact. Like if you go to deep East Oakland, the problem may exist there, but that's them. Like those people are pretty much gated off from everybody else. So their problems are restricted to their 5 mile radius. It's not something that we really practice on a large scale. And the reason why I even emphasize Deep East Oakland is because I grew up in Berkeley, so the problem wasn't there. But as soon as you go hang out at a high school called Skyline, you see the problem you see hints of the problem, but they would keep it under wraps because Oakland was a very progressive town and Skyline was one of their top schools, but the problem was kind of there, but they kept it under wraps. But as soon as you left Skyline and went to the flatlands and to deep, like, what was that? Sabrani Park, and people from Oakland, they know what I'm saying. You go to Sabrani Park, the problem may exist there, but if anybody knows Sabrani Park, that's a one-way in, one-way out place. It's like, it's a danger zone. And that's not to say like we shouldn't deal with that problem, but it's not something that we need to really focus on as Black Americans at this point. And I say this too, another thing comes to mind. Shamar Moore is from the same area as Sabrani Park. And Shamar Moore is light-skinned as hell. Now, did Shamar Moore get some type of preferential treatment or favor from the girls? Yes. But as soon as that motherfucker left out of that area, that small area, he was just another nigga. He gets his ass stomped out. Girls will turn him down for coochie and everything. Because also, Lance Cross from Tyler Perry's TV show, he's also from Oakland. Let me use them as exact examples or to do apples to apples comparison. So Lance Cross will get just as much play as Shamar Moore with the girls in Oakland because nobody cares about Shamar Moore's skin complexion necessarily, especially since Lance Cross is just as attractive, if not more attractive, than Shamar Moore. So when it comes to me and my experience, that wasn't this colorism thing isn't a huge issue, but it is still a huge issue for her and her people. And I will do a part 2 to this to where I'll show you where she actually alludes to it, how her, at least she alludes to it in terms of her experience in Georgia. And I'll do a part 2. Please comment. Let me know if you want a part 2. I'm going to do it either way. I'll do it, in the early morning hours. But bottom line is, that's it. Hopefully, you understood me. Thank you for your time, patience, and love. And peace out. And, when they hit you with that Pan-African babble, after they, ignore all of their issues with colorism and gender warring and all the stuff they have going on, hit them with the the Peter Pan Africanists. Just hit them with that. Just let them know nobody wants to hear that shit. Okay, nobody wants to hear that shit. Seriously, take your Peter Pan African ass somewhere else. Actually, let's make that shorter. There we go. So we get the title on there. Okay, just tell them that. Just no, take it back there. Hit them with the Peter Pan Africanists, and that's it. One love.